what this course won't be really is like business stuff. So this is my business email, this is my business phone, but it is important to consider getting those for your website because they actually affect they can affect your score. So I actually what was confusing to me is when I ran my wife's website and the scoring system for that, it actually gave her a 100 SEO score, but she had like a public email, like at gmail.com. So you'll notice here it's hello at weblaunchacademy.com. It's not, weblaunchacademy at gmail. I just wanted to touch on that. It's not really necessary to have a website though. So I'm not gonna go into detail about setting up your business, LLC setup, EIN, all that stuff. But it is worth considering because if you don't have an EIN, you can't take payment processing within Stripe. Oh yeah, so thank you, Jordan. So yeah, so going off of the website scoring, so there's going to be performance, and I'll actually run the test here. So what you can do if you're running a PC, you can click F12 or go to try to find it, and it should be in, it's not in settings, it's more tools. Here we go. So you can find this. You can either press F12 or you go to developer tools. You go into more tools. This is in PC. I don't know what Mac where you'd find this in Mac, but you try to find something like developer tools and you'll see this. So this is actually important when you are developing and testing as well. So there's this console thing, and you'll get errors within this console if there's any like problems in here. So you can type in, let's say I just had, I'll just type in my name here. Okay, so that actually that button doesn't come up. So if I were to put something in here and it didn't come up with the right email. So let me actually just put in a bad email format. So I'll just put in my name. Okay, so that works just fine. This is actually an error. This is actually a really it's a professional developer tool that I have in here. Rather than it showing up in the console, it'll show up in here and it'll notify, hey, you didn't have a good email format. And I'll talk about that maybe a little bit later. But usually when you're in your developer tools and you're in testing mode, you'll see a bunch of errors come up in here. And some of the notifications aren't errors. Some of them look like errors. They'll be red, but they don't really mean anything. So you can go to performance and this will actually at face value kind of give you some scores here. So largest content, LCP, and so that's good. And I'll kind of talk about what these mean later on, but for now, what's really important is you can go into Lighthouse, and this is what this is one of the guarantees that I offer. So you can go into this Lighthouse scoring. Again, that's this little tab, and you can either click on mobile or desktop, and you can analyze the page load. So these categories: performance, that's like speed; accessibility is like, do the buttons work and stuff. Best practices is it's kind of hard to explain. It's like what your code, if your code is good. There's like best practices in coding, and AI actually takes care of like pretty much all of that. When you first run this, even if your site is not very good, it'll probably have best practices near 100 because you're coding with AI, and AI does everything really well. SEO means search engine optimization. So that's what you're asking for, Jordan. And that means that, you know, do you have a chance of your website coming up on the first page of a browser, of a search? So if somebody Googles like what your website is about, not necessarily the exact name of your website, but what your website is about. So especially a very specific search. So with Ramsey preferred coaches, somebody might type in, financial coach, personal financial coach in Ohio, right? And I'm in Ohio, and so my coaching website might come up on the first page if my SEO is good. If it's not good and somebody types in exactly what I do, it still might not show up on the first page. Or even more specific, if somebody types in Ramsey preferred coach in Ohio or personal financial coach in Cleveland, Ohio, this score makes a big difference. So that's search engine optimization. And, I'll just click the button here and just show you kind of what that looks like, what that does. So it's it's uh, it's gathering information and just figuring out, does everything work? How does the development work? All that stuff. So right now my site passes, I would say, 90s above. I have a few, so you might think like, well, why am I taking lessons from you? Your performance is not 100. Shouldn't all these things be 100? Yeah. So there's a give and take with, performance, accessibility. I should have that. I should that have that up to 100. I'll have to investigate that. But you can. I'll show everyone how to get these on your own. You don't actually have to have the guarantee to correct these. So I'll investigate these. I'll figure out kind of like, what's going on. Why am I only getting a 96? So this is not a big deal. So if you look at this, background and foreground colors do not have a sufficient contrast rate. That just means like, hey, your text is like light blue and your background is white, so you might not be able to see it very well. So that's what this is. It's within submit testimonial, so it's somewhere down here, and it should actually highlight. Yeah, so it's saying this is not a good contrast ratio. So that's not a big deal. I can go in to AI right now and just kind of like be like, hey, fix the contrast ratio in the this little area here. And you don't have to be like super specific. AI will kind of figure out what you're talking about. So you can be like, hey, fix the contrast ratio within submit testimonial section, and that will hopefully correct this scoring a little bit. But that's how you do that. So that's super important to know. That's again F12 if you're on a PC. I don't really know about Mac, or you can try to search for developer tools in this tab. More tools, developer tools, and it says Control Shift plus L, I think, is another shortcut, but I like F12 a little bit better. Let me see if. Okay, it's actually Control Shift plus I to get into here. So kind of nice to know. Um,